Caitlin Clark disappears from the Fever's rotation with no injury update, no load management notice, no clear reason, just gone. And within hours, the story explodes. Fans are chanting, comment sections are melting, and two teammates, Sophie Cunningham and Lexie, stop playing nice. They say the quiet part out loud. If your biggest draw isn't on the floor, and no one will explain why, you don't have a basketball problem. You have a power problem. That's the shock point we're in, and tonight we're pulling the whole thread. What's confirmed, what's alleged, why the league's response made the fire worse, and what this means for the future. Here's what's on the record. Clark is healthy enough to practice, is visibly engaged on the bench, and has not been listed with any specific injury by the team. The official language has been vague. Rotations, personal time. We support our players. That's corporate fog. What we can say objectively is simple. She's the most watched player in the league, arenas sell out when she plays, and the Fever's offense is built around her gravity. You don't pull that engine without a clear explanation unless something bigger is at play. The vacuum is what enraged people. Fans aren't dumb. They track minute logs, they track warm-ups, they track who's taking post-game media and who suddenly isn't. Within hours, you could feel the temperature change. Where is Caitlin? Let her play. Players over politics. Clips of hard contact she's absorbed, threads about minute dips, snapshots of team social pages that suddenly go quiet on her. None of that proves a conspiracy, but together it paints a picture fans don't trust. When trust evaporates, speculation becomes gasoline. Enter Sophie Cunningham. She's a vet with a spine of rebar and a reputation for saying the thing everyone else softens. After another awkward night without Clark, she stops towing the line. She doesn't accuse individuals by name. She doesn't spin conspiracy. She hits one point like a hammer. There is no basketball reason your top playmaker sits without transparency. You can find a quote like that, but you can't put it back in the bottle. The clip travels. Players nod quietly. Analysts ask the obvious. If this is a rotation choice, explain the rotation. Lexie follows, and that's where the ground really moves. Hull is measured by nature, which makes her words heavier. She frames it as a principle. If an uninjured star can be shelved without clarity, what protects the rest of us? She doesn't throw flames, she draws a boundary. That's the moment the conversation turns from one player to the entire workplace. This stops being a fandom fight and becomes a labor story. The question isn't, where is Caitlin choice anymore? It's who decides and why. Let's separate what we know from what we're hearing. We know the league denied any off-court meddling and reiterated a commitment to player well-being. We know the team signaled expected back soon, which mysteriously arrives right after the public heat spikes. We know fans and teammates perceived a disconnect between performance on the floor and decisions off it. We know Sophie and Lexie absorbed fines and kept their stance. Those are facts. Now, the allegations that higher-ups wanted to script a softer, more controllable narrative, that refusal to play along caused minutes to evaporate, that marketing plans leaked into basketball decisions. Those claims are unverified. They may be true, untrue, or partially true, but whether they're provable in documents is almost beside the point for the league's immediate crisis. The crisis is credibility. When silence reads like spin, people believe the version told by the folks taking risk to tell it. Zoom in on the basketball cost. Clark isn't just a scorer, she's a system. Her gravity from 28 feet bends defenses so hard that shooters eat, rollers feast, and even average sets look genius, because help is already 2 steps out of position. Remove that pressure and your offense shrinks. Possessions slow. Spacing collapses. Younger teammates over-dribble because the release valve is gone. You can see the ripple even before you read a box score. That's why the phrase rotation choice rang so hollow. You don't voluntarily turn off your best spacing machine without a hard, honest reason. Now, the media machine. Traditional PR logic says, say less, ride it out. That works when the stakes are low. But this league is in a growth sprint. Ratings are up, attendance is up, and new fans care about transparency because they came of age in a world where receipts live online forever. The same internet that built Caitlin's brand can unbuild trust in a weekend. So when the league issued a neat, careful denial with no working detail, the audience didn't nod. They checked the timestamps and kept yelling. A better move would have been radical transparency. Here is what we legally can and cannot say. Here is the day-by-day plan. Here is when you will hear from Caitlin herself. A timeline cools speculation. A vacuum cooks it. What Sophie did was embrace risk. The safe play is no comment. She chose, there's no basketball reason. which is both specific and careful. She didn't drag private health, didn't name executives, didn't burn the staff. She targeted the logic. That's how you call out a system without making collateral damage to the story. It also gave her teammates cover. If the first voice takes the fine, the second voice can stand taller. That second voice was Lexie, who reframed everything around the player's workplace. You can disagree with their interpretation, but you can't dismiss the courage. Fines are money. Reputations are careers. Let's talk locker room. When something like this hits, a room splits 3 ways. Group 1 says, keep your head down. This league is small. Group 2 says, we love the game. Don't make us pawns. Group 3 says, I'm not speaking publicly, but I know which side I'm on. From the outside, you'll only see a handful of posts. Behind closed doors, it's much louder. Young players ask veterans what the lines are. Veterans text union reps and ask for language in the CBA that prevents off-court marketing from touching on-court availability. Coaches are stuck in the middle because coaches answer up and down. They manage players while being managed. It's not pretty, but it's reality, and it's why the simplest fix is usually the right one. Clean reasons, clean timelines, clean returns. Now, the fan movement. This audience didn't just complain, they organized. They clipped plays, tracked minutes, mapped social posts, and built threads that would make a paralegal proud. When fans do the work, they feel ownership. Ownership breeds patience when you're honest, and fury when you're not. That's why you saw the tone change from "we're worried" to "we feel played." The slogans evolved too. From "where is Caitlin?" to "let them speak." That second one matters because it's scalable. It says the issue is voice, not just minutes. There's also a cold, financial layer. When your top draw sits, secondary effects start immediately. Comp redemptions rise, resale markets dip, local partners ask questions, and national partners watch sentiment. You can patch one game. You cannot patch a narrative. The league knows this. Owners know this. Everyone involved in long-term rights negotiations knows this. So even if you believe the most benign version, that this was truly a short personal pause handled clumsily, the lesson stands. Opacity is expensive. Back to Caitlin. She hasn't gone public with a detailed statement, and that's smart. When the room is spinning, players who talk too early get trapped by headline cherry picks. The right move is to play. Then speak with clarity once the floor is under your feet. Expect something measured. Expect gratitude toward teammates. Expect a focus on basketball and fans. Don't expect a scorched earth tell-all. Stars don't survive long wars with their own leagues. But you can expect subtext. Athletes are masters of the meaningful half sentence. I'm grateful to be back on terms that make sense. Translation, you heard me. When she does step back on the floor, it's not just a box score. It's an X-ray. Watch the first 2 possessions. If the Fever run a set designed to give her an early clean look, stagger to handoff into a flare, you'll know the message. Our star runs the ship again. If the whistle is tight on perimeter bumps, you'll know the league wants a smoother watch. If Clark plays her normal burst and then takes the sideline mic post-game, it will be because the plan is to stabilize the narrative in her voice. That's how you steer a storm back to sport. Sophie's arc from energy role player to frontline advocate is now part of Fever lore. That matters for culture. Every team needs someone who takes the hit so the locker room doesn't fracture. She did that. Hull's arc, quiet to resolute, gives the movement legitimacy across personality types. Not everyone is a firebrand. Some leaders are steady hands who only raise their voice when the house really is on fire. Fans recognize that. Teammates remember it. The union files it away for the next negotiation. What should the league do now? 3 concrete steps. 1. Codify a transparency standard for star absences that protects medical privacy but kills the mystery DNP. Something like, if a healthy player will miss multiple games, a team must provide a non-medical operational rationale within 24 hours. 2. Firewall marketing from minutes. Put it in writing that league promotional planning cannot influence game availability. 3. Invite players to co-author narrative content. If the W wants documentary-style storytelling, and it should, build it with them, not around them. You get buy-in, and you get better stories. What should the team do? Simple. Win the reunion. Script the basketball, not the person. First quarter, establish Clark's touch early. Even a decoy action is fine if it tells the defense. Chase her. Second quarter, let her quarterback second unit minutes to find rhythm without heavy traps. Third, run your ATOs through her hands for trust reps. Fourth, if the game allows, give her the final word in the huddle. Those are micro choices that say this is still her house. What should fans do? Keep doing the thing that got us here. Demand clarity without dehumanizing the humans. It's possible to love the league, love the players, and push institutions to be better all at once. In fact, that's how sports grow up. The women's game is exploding precisely because the audience is active and engaged. Don't let anyone tell you that asking questions is disloyal. It's the most loyal thing you can do. Let's acknowledge the counter-arguments because they're fair. Maybe there were personal complexities the public doesn't and shouldn't know. Maybe internal health protocols forced caution. Maybe the messaging misfired in the scramble. All possible, all forgivable too, if they're paired with honest timelines and respect for the audience. What isn't sustainable is a posture that treats scrutiny like sabotage. In 2025, silence isn't neutral. It's negative space the internet fills for you. If you're looking for the one sentence that explains the entire mess, it's this. The WNBA is in a fight between control and authenticity just won the first round. Clark's draw isn't manufactured, it's earned. Sophie and Lexi's credibility doesn't come from follower counts, it comes from risk taken. Fans' power isn't theoretical, it's measured in sellouts, streams, and sponsors who watch sentiment graphs like stock tickers. Everyone is learning in real time where that power sits. When the camera finds Caitlin on that first game back, pay attention to her eyes in the huddle. Leaders signal with their face before they signal with their voice. If she's calm and locked, the room settles. If she's wired and pressing, teammates will try to overcompensate. The most likely version, she'll be stone calm, then launch a logo 3 on the second trip just to announce we're done with whispers. It's not vengeance. She doesn't need that. It's recentering the story where it belongs, on the court, where the truth is binary. Did you put the ball in the basket or not? When the horn sounds, don't be surprised if the mic finds Sophie first. She'll shrug off the fines and say it was never about money. She'll thank the fans for the noise and pivot back to team goals. Hull will nod and say the same thing in fewer words. Clark will thank the city, the staff, and the league in that exact order, because that's how you lower the temperature without conceding the point. And the headlines the next morning will be exactly what they should have been all along. Box scores, not boardrooms. Still, the lesson doesn't get erased just because the ball is bouncing again. The league will remember how fast sentiment can swing when trust is taken for granted. Teams will remember that no comment is a tactic, not a plan. Players will remember who stood up when it was uncomfortable. And fans will remember that when they ask the right questions loudly enough, the answers eventually show up. Maybe not in a press release, but in minutes, in rotations, in the simple fact of their favorite player holding the rock with the game in the balance. If you came here angry, stay passionate, but take the win where it's real. A star sidelined without sense is back. Two teammates just redefined what leadership looks like in this league. The conversation moved from whispers to policy ideas in a week. That's progress. Messy and loud and very modern. Let it push the W forward, not fracture it. Because at the end of the day, this is about the thing that made you care in the first place. A player who can bend a defense from the logo, and a league worth fighting for so that talent like that isn't muted by anything except the shot clock. So, no, this isn't an intro. This is the point. Caitlin Clark was silenced without a reason fans could believe. Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull called it out, and now everyone, from the league office to the last row in the upper deck, has to decide what kind of story women's basketball is going to tell. Not a scripted one, a real one. And real stories start and end in the same place. Whistle blows, ball goes up, and the truth plays itself out in front of all of us. Roll the tape and reconstruct the 72 hours that broke the dam. Day 1, Clark is listed active, warms up, sits. Cameras catch her smiling with teammates. Then the rotation closes without her touching the floor. No post-game clarity. Day 2, practice reports leak. She's on court, moving well, drilling the same off-ball relocation threes that warp a defense. Players post routine practice pics. Clark isn't in the carousel. Day 3, morning shoot-around looks normal. Then the game notes land with another non-answer. That's when the crowd moves from curious to hostile. The timeline matters because it shows cause and effect. The less the league and team said, the more the audience supplied its own subtitles. That is the calculus of modern sports. If you don't fill the frame, the internet will. Go inside the film room for a second. Watch how Indy's first action usually starts when Clark is on the floor. Horns set into flare, 2 screens at the elbows, Clark lifts above the break, and a defender sprints 2 steps farther than the scheme requires because of the fear of the pull-up. That single overreaction forces low help to bump early, the dunker spot opens, and a simple pocket pass becomes a layup. Remove Clark and the trap evaporates. The defense returns to math it trusts. You don't need a conspiracy theory to explain why that hurts. It's geometry. Even if a team wanted balance, balance isn't parity of touches. It's the advantage that draws advantages for everyone else. Minutes aren't a reward for celebrity, they're a function of pressure. Now zoom out to officiating, a topic everyone wants to scream about, but few want to talk about precisely. League-wide physicality on ball handlers has been inconsistent all season. Stars, especially rookies who arrived with giant audiences, get bodied to test their composure. That's normal in the pro game. Where it gets abnormal is when whistle patterns swing wildly night to night, and players can't establish what contact is allowed. When fans stitch together clips of Clark taking forearm bumps at the point of attack without a call, they weren't alleging bribery, they were articulating confusion. Consistency is the product, not for a single player, but for everyone trying to learn what the boundary is. If the league wants to cool temperature, it doesn't need secret memos. It needs memo-level clarity on points of emphasis, and then to call them the same way on Wednesday as on Sunday. Let's address the marketing versus minutes tension without melodrama. Every league balances storytelling and sport. The NBA does it, the NFL does it, the W does it. The line you can't cross is letting a content calendar touch a rotation sheet. That doesn't need a leaked PDF to be true. It's a principle. You protect it in writing. You protect it culturally. You protect it by empowering coaches to say, no, we're playing our best 5 because the locker room needs to believe merit wins. In a growth phase, the temptation to engineer arcs is real. Resist it. The best storyline the W has, ever, isn't manufactured adversity, it's the very real collision of a generational shooter with a league full of defenders eager to humble her. That's an honest product. Put the cameras on that. Back to Sophie and Lexi, because leadership is a stack, not a moment. Leadership is Sophie knowingly stepping into a fine so a quieter teammate feels safe to speak. Leadership is Lexi choosing a sentence that scales, if this can happen to her, what about the rest of us? That's the sentence your rookies memorize. It's also the sentence that forces a union to act, because it reframes the event from gossip to governance. You fix governance with language. Picture the next CBA addendum. No league employee may influence or attempt to influence team playing time decisions for non-medical reasons. Violations subject to grievance and independent review. That one line is boring. It's also how you stop 1,000 internet storms before they start. Fans aren't a side character in this. They are the accelerant, and if treated with respect, the stabilizer. Some brought stats, others brought signs. Some screamed, others emailed sponsors. Together, they did something leagues quietly pray for and fear simultaneously. They proved they're paying attention. There were 3 kinds of fan messages that hit hardest. The kid who saved up for her first WNBA game specifically to see Clark, only to learn at the arena that she wasn't playing and no one could explain why. The longtime fan who's watched through thin years and said, "Please don't fumble this moment." And the casual sports watcher who tuned in because of the noise and discovered they loved the pace, the skill, the chip on everyone's shoulder, and then asked, "So why are we sidelining the reason I got here?" If you want to keep those 3, you give them the dignity of straight answers and the joy of unambiguous basketball. Let's get granular about the return game, because it's not just a production, it's a chance to repair. Pre-game. No cryptic teases, release a clear availability note, list minute expectations, set the post-game media plan. In arena, introduce the team, not just the star. Spotlight the whole roster, then give the building its outlet. 30 seconds for the Clark ovation. That's oxygen you provide, so it doesn't become oxygen people steal later. First quarter, run the simple action Clark can execute with eyes closed. Drag screen into early pull or pocket dime. Let her see the ball go in or see a teammate finish. That's how you soften adrenaline spikes. Second quarter, featured 2 possessions where Clark sets the screen to remind defenses she'll hurt switches with slips and short rolls, not only step backs. Third, if the whistle was loose early, tighten your drives, force decisions. Fourth, Whatever happens, get her on the mic after. 1 minute, gratitude first, team-centered, no barbs. The message is, back to basketball, not I win the press conference. There's a personnel dimension here too. The Fever have learned uncomfortable things about themselves. They've learned who runs to a camera and who runs to a teammate. They've learned which young players respond to chaos with poise and which need hand-holding. That's scouting data as real as Wingspan. Use it. Maybe it nudges a rotation tweak. More 2-guard minutes for Hull because she guards point of attack well next to Clark. More stagger for Cunningham so her edge polices second units. Maybe it informs a mid-season pickup. One more spacer with quick decision-making so Clark's skips aren't dying on hesitant hands. The point? Translates scandal into schematics. Now the quiet stakeholders, sponsors, and broadcasters. The smart ones won't yank support, they'll ask for process. How do we prevent avoidable absences of marquee talent isn't a threat. It's an invitation to institutionalize common sense. Expect requests for transparency dashboards, simple public-facing injury/availability trackers with consistent terminology. Expect production meetings that emphasize neutrality in how controversy is framed. No winks to conspiracy, no PR parroting. Call the game clean. If there's news, break it fully or not at all. There's also room for grace. It's possible good people made bad calls under pressure. It's possible privacy concerns were real and poorly messaged. It's possible that, in trying to manage one player's well-being, decision-makers undercut the trust of many. You fix that, not with defensiveness, but with humility. Imagine the commissioner saying, "We didn't meet the standard for clarity. We'll do better. Here's how." That lands. That resets. That's leadership that sounds like it knows the audience isn't an obstacle. It's the reason the lights are on. For players around the league watching, file this away. Your voice works best when it stays narrow and verifiable. When you say, "There is no basketball reason," you're pointing at film and rotations, not invisible villains. Keep it there, it gives allies something to hold. And for the next rookie phenom, the blueprint is now written. Build your game. Build your body. Build your boundaries. If a camera asks for a scene you don't believe in, say no. And know that somewhere, 2 veterans already paid the tax, so your no lands softer. As for the culture at large, this was a stress test of a league trying to scale. Scaling is messy. Systems that worked at 1x break at 5x. You learn where comms need staff, where policies need teeth, where the schedule needs flex for human beings who carry more weight than a typical rookie. You don't romanticize the chaos, you learn from it. The women's game has never had more eyes. Eyes bring scrutiny. Scrutiny is the price of growth. Pay it with receipts, not with resentment. When the buzzer sounds on Clark's first game back, the take economy will fire up. Some will declare vindication, some will declare overreaction. Most will do what they always did, judge by the hoops. Did the Fever run clean? Did Clark look free? Did the product feel honest? That last word is the whole ballgame. Honest. Not perfect, not polished. Honest. You can sell that every night. So here we are. Beyond rumor, beyond outrage, into the part that lasts, memory. Fans will remember Sophie stepping into the blast radius. They'll remember Lexie making a quiet sentence louder than a shout. They'll remember how it felt to not get straight answers, and how it felt when basketball finally washed the noise out of the building. And if the league is wise, it will remember the simplest lesson. Institutions always relearn the hard way. Control is brittle. Authenticity is durable. Build with the durable stuff. Put the ball back where it belongs. Let the game speak.